Hi everyone, welcome to our next CX conversation, and today we're talking about digital transformation in B2B and how we can improve customer experiences by using digital tools. And I'm really pleased to be joined by Myles from Cloud Gateway. Myles, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone about your role at Cloud Gateway and what you guys do?
Yeah, of course. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. My name's Myles Clarke. I'm the marketing director at Cloud Gateway. We've been around since 2017. I was lucky enough to be part of that first group, sort of 2 or 3 of us, one customer, right through to now as we sit here where we're sort of in the range of sort of 250 plus customers and sort of 45, 50 people. So been a very cool and exciting journey, and yeah, really enlightening to be a part of it from the very beginning. In terms of my role, sort of all the stuff you'd expect from a marketing director, sort of responsible for the go-to-market strategy. We've more recently secured a little bit of additional investment, and we have made a sort of positioning move from a SASE provider to a NAS, network as a service provider. So yeah, the last 3 to 4 months have been kind of implementing that, which has been busy and exciting, and we're kind of just at the point now where sort of phase 1 of that is kind of complete. As with most things, there's really no finishing line, so there's a ton more work now ahead of us. But yeah, nice to reflect on what's been a busy but a highly productive 3 or 4 months, and yeah, hopefully some exciting times ahead.
Well, you've had plenty of exciting times to date, but yeah, what has been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome at Cloud Gateway?
Well, I guess when I first took this role, the biggest challenge was integrating and kind of streamlining our sort of 3 biggest digital channels or tools. So the website being an obvious one. We have a customer portal too, and then I kind of group everything else together in terms of social and market place listings. And yeah, they all kind of operated in their own little silos. There was a degree of automation with our CRM, but it was patchy and to an extent unreliable. Now, you know, in terms of the kind of volumes of data we were collecting at the time, it wasn't a screaming priority, but that very quickly changed as more customers came on board and we were collecting and harnessing a huge amount of data. And so it became important that, you know, where these all kind of ended up probably wasn't fit for purpose anymore. So there was a fairly large undertaking in getting that up to speed. So yeah, we moved provider in a couple of instances. We kind of optimized what we had in place in others, and that's allowed us to, you know, collect a ton more data in the first instance, get that into a central repository where it was consistent, it was accurate, we could trust the intelligence and the insights that we were then going to glean from it. And then, of course, the most important thing is how do we action those? What's the tangible benefit of having these? And for us in marketing, it was about informing our content and campaign strategies, improving the user experience and the kind of prospect journey. But also on the kind of portal side, it was really enlightening in kind of validating and confirming some stuff we already thought about what the industry needs and wants from a product like ours. Like I said, NAS is an emerging technology, and whilst we have a firm commitment that it is the right way to go for a lot of organizations in this kind of cloud and digital era, the data that we were able to collect and then harness was able to support and kind of verify that. And like I said, on a few points where we weren't quite right, it's allowed us to pivot quite decisively. And I think both internal stakeholders and more importantly, prospective and existing customers have benefited from that.
And can you pinpoint a specific B2B feature that you think's had the most transformative effect or impact on Cloud Gateway?
Well, one that's fairly fresh in my mind and topical is kind of we moved away from our CMS provider to another one. You guys know this, you helped us with this, so to move towards Storyblok. And what that essentially allowed us to do was, you know, we had a tech team that should have been focusing on all this cool stuff we're doing over here with NAS, but they were more often than not being dragged into helping us and other departments, to be fair, with kind of our internal technology stack. And what Storyblok has allowed us to do is move more away from that tech-led solution to a marketing-led solution. So we're able to, well, you know, as any marketer will tell you, you know, all the things that you need to be able to do, all the features that you have, like the degree of configurability in there is really great. We can deploy new components, add new assets, get new content out into the market. We can track and evaluate the impact that that's had. Did it have the impact we hoped? What potentially went wrong if it didn't? Allows us to do more of the things that are resonating with our target audiences and less of the things that aren't. So yeah, it's the kind of execution of new content and campaign ideas as part of prospect and user journeys, but also then the evaluation of how those have done to inform the next wave.
Yeah, and on that topic, since implementing Storyblok, what key metrics or milestones have you seen that can demonstrate ROI and the impact on Cloud Gateway's digital experience and overall kind of business performance?
I would say that kind of time to value is a bit of a funny one, but that's been great for us. You know, we sort of look in that in two ways, like the kind of time we've been able to save in terms of how long it takes to create the components and configure the components and test them and then deploy them. So that saved us a ton of hours in the team. You know, we've had a relatively big recruitment exercise recently. So the team is a little bit bigger, but there's only a finite amount of time. So like I said, that time is now predominantly within the marketing team. So we have a lot more control and autonomy, and we can project resourcing challenges in the future. But more importantly, it's actually saved us a ton of time. As I alluded to earlier with the tech team as well, you know, we need so much less help now than we used to. And then in terms of the specific metrics, we can look at how much new content we've deployed, how many times we've gone in and responded to the kind of tracking metrics that it allows you to do natively within Storyblok, in addition to the ones that we've kind of added in using other tools. We can evaluate user behaviors when they're on the site. Do they fit with what we expected, and where they don't, is that a good thing or a bad thing, and should we be encouraging more of it or not? So yeah, across the whole piece, to be honest. But I guess the primary one, you know, we've got a lot on, lots to get through. This big project with the eyes of the business and the outside world on it. Yeah, we've been able to test new positioning and new messaging, and then, like I said, respond decisively when we've evaluated how well it's sort of landed.
And how important is B2B personalization for you at Cloud Gateway?
Oh, well, I certainly don't want to overstate it, but yeah, for me, it's one of the most important things. Half of the reason we collect the data we do is so that we can make personalization central to all of our kind of outreach, whether that be sort of, you know, conventional marketing and sales outreach, or just the kind of roadmap that we have on the website or the portal. So yeah, we, like most organizations in this sort of day and age, are big on sort of data-driven decisions, being able to explain and justify why you've made a decision. They don't always work out that way. You know, not every single piece of data is going to lead you down the right path. But when you aggregate the data we collect across a number of different channels, you sort of build trust in it very, very quickly. So yeah, I'd certainly say that's been a big thing for us, and certainly something very topical, because it's been so important over the last sort of 3 to 6 months. And I think it's not unusual now to see personalization in, you know, sort of general marketing outreach, email campaigns, social media campaigns, that sort of thing. But, you know, we target 3 very specific territories, and then within those territories, there's what we describe as micro sectors. And whilst there's a lot of commonality across those, you know, healthcare, for example, we have 7 or 8 categorizations within healthcare, and there's a lot of commonalities in there and a lot of challenges that they all share, but there's also a lot of nuance, and we're able to capture that nuance, we think and hope, in the content we put out on the website, the content we put out on other sort of digital channels, in a way that we perhaps weren't 9, 12 months ago.
And has this focus on making sure you're considering personalization and offering personalized experience, have the insights that you've harvested through those activities kind of enabled your sales team to be better?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're able to go to them now. We run like a monthly report where we kind of summarize, like, you know, what we've learned. And actually, you know, more often than not, it's just confirming or validating, corroborating what we maybe already knew or suspected, but we now have hard evidence that no, that is the right direction, and we can pursue that with confidence. But yeah, there are definitely times where we think we know one thing. I think most businesses think they know their customers and their customers' challenges better than they do. We've certainly been guilty of that at times, but now there's no need for any of that. It's a lot more binary now, as far as I see it. And I think the results kind of speak for themselves, because the sales figures and the marketing figures and, you know, all the kind of common metrics you'd expect across a kind of a GTM revenue generating function are all moving in the right direction, right? And it's difficult to then attribute that to, you know, is that the repositioning, is that the kind of refresh website, is that the updates we've made to the portal? It's not always clear, but because those things have been put together as part of a coherent coordinated effort across multiple teams, we know it's the bigger picture is delivering the results we want. So whether you're looking at very micro metrics within a marketing function, or whether you're looking at something more grander, like, you know, just the ARR that you've managed to secure that month, we feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Great. I see across all of our accounts like this real shift towards focusing on digital more within B2B organizations. And you're starting to see a lot of those trends that we used to see in B2C, of people always try to keep up with latest trends and ideas and technology, things like that. So how do you guys approach staying up to date with the latest trends? What strategies have you got in place to make sure that you're staying current with all of your ideas and your thinking?
There's a few things here worth touching on, I think. So firstly, it's a kind of a bit of a cultural thing within a business like ours. You know, we are kind of almost a cliche startup, scale up kind of organization in terms of our approach and the culture we have in the business. And I think kind of curiosity is a big part of that. Innovation is a big part of that. I think we have constantly got our ear to the ground in terms of new and emerging technologies and tools that could help us within marketing, or could help the broader revenue generating team. So we're pretty focused on that. I always caveat that by saying, look, that, you know, the technology stack will organically grow as you know, in this kind of digital age. And, you know, we're a fairly typical company. We have 4 or 5 key digital channels, like ensuring that they kind of, you know, the interoperability between those channels and making sure they all speak to each other and data is being moved along in a timely fashion. Like, that means it's naturally going to grow. So there are some you need, but for us, we did a fairly robust audit when I moved into this role, just to understand what was needed and maybe what was a nice to have, because it is difficult. You know, whether you're online or speaking with colleagues and friends or peers, like, there's a lot of technologies out there, especially in an age of AI, right? So yeah, you need a fairly robust kind of, I say basic, it's evolved, but like, you know, a scorecard to assess, you know, these tools and are they going to fulfill the purpose and the outcome that we want, because it's very easy to hear and see about these shiny new technologies and think, right, well, we must have them because they're all billed as the next thing that without you're going to get left behind. So you need a fairly curious mind, but you also need to be fairly disciplined. And I think the discipline bit is the easy one to control, because you can build governance and process around the decision making process. Because these tools now, you can put in a credit card, and for, you know, $49.99, you know, it's the world of SaaS, right? So yeah, keeping a close eye on that is good, but there's, like most things, there's a balance.
Yeah, there certainly is. And you've always got to stay on your toes, right, and think
Yes.
about what's coming next and how to address it. And with that in mind, are there 3 top tips or 3 areas which you would give as advice to other B2B leaders that they should be focusing on to stay competitive and future ready?
Yeah, I can probably have a go at that. So I think one thing that probably could have been an answer to your previous question is, you know, surrounding yourself by like-minded people and organizations. So that's obviously nice sitting here speaking to you guys, because you've been a part of our kind of supplier network for a little while, and it's you know, you get great peace of mind, especially in speciality subjects, where for an organization like us, it would be probably very expensive and probably not the best use of our time and money to employ specialists in every single area. We need to lean on and utilize agencies like yourselves who can help, and you guys are great at coming to us. We kind of encourage that. I think that kind of cultural alignment is important there. But yeah, you can come to us and help us sort of sift through the noise, if that makes sense. These are the things that you should be caring about. Maybe these are less of a priority for you right now. And kind of like we said at the beginning, this comes back to kind of understanding values and sharing values and taking the time to understand the challenges we have as a business and the targets that we have, because you can then make more informed decisions about what you do and don't bring to us. So I think that's definitely one that helps. From my perspective, that curiosity piece is important, because I think as a relatively young marketing director, I was very keen to, make a good first impression in the first instance, and make sure that the team, and as you're going through a repositioning exercise, there were lots of eyes on what we were doing in marketing, right? So making sure that I put our team in the best position to succeed. And so, in this day and age, a lot of that revolves around technology. I'm quite a process-driven person, so it was very, a lot of quick wins around bringing some process and governance around the technologies, because I think that's very important too. Otherwise, you can get carried away, for want of a better phrase. So there's definitely two things that I think are super important. And I think thirdly, it's kind of what I describe as a passionate pursuit, of kind of understanding our current and prospective customer base as well as we possibly can. There's a ton of data out there. We collect a ton ourselves. So in the first instance, understanding their challenges, like we just said about our partner network and supply network, understanding ours, it's about genuinely understanding, and then, importantly, building a product that solves those challenges. But I guess developing that point further for us, and I suspect other organizations are going through this themselves, we work in health tech, for example. That's a very fast moving, evolving landscape. There are, the breadth and scope of different organizations that could be categorized legitimately as healthcare is vast, and they all have, there's some commonality, but they all have their own unique challenges. And so for us, it's realizing that, a piece of research or an exercise looking at, a specific territory and some of the challenges going on there, it's not finished when you just completely right and you dust that one off and put that to one side. It needs to be an evolving thing. You need to constantly be aware of the kind of trends and issues and challenges that they're dealing with as a sector, and then, the organizations within them. And that'll give you the best chance of delivering the best user experience, when it comes to delivering new content, running events, whatever it might be. If they're informed by that, I think you stand a much better chance of them being successful in whatever outcome you're looking to get.
That's great, Myles. Thanks ever so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's been a really insightful conversation, and look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Lovely. Well, thank you for having me.